So, as already introduced, the title of this panel is Mental Health and Wellbeing Can No Longer Be Ignored. And I'm joined by two amazing and inspirational leaders that are going to talk to us about what they do in their businesses. So, over to you to introduce yourselves.
Hello everyone, so I'm Kat Parsons, so I'm Head of Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging for ISS UK and Ireland. So that's 35,000 people, so that's quite a lot of people to try and include as part of that business. For me, in terms of why this is so important, I've been in the FM industry for ISS for coming up to 3 years, and it's the most diverse workplace I've ever worked for in my life. My background is in construction, environmental consultancy, oil and gas, and I usually would walk into a room and there would be men everywhere, to the point that for 16 years, I didn't even notice. I'd walk in a room and be like, I'm the only woman in here again. So for me, I think it was a big thing. I don't think I could necessarily be exactly who I am. I'm exceptionally passionate, as you'll probably get from the end of this, which can be quite annoying at times. And I think actually at times I would rein that in so that I'd fit into the space that I was in. So for me, moving across to this role means that not only can I be myself, but I can empower everyone else to be their self as well.
Thanks, Kat. Sarah, over to you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Sarah Monday and I'm the Health and Wellbeing Programme Lead for Britvic Soft Drinks. Hopefully you'd have heard of Britvic. I'm sure you probably know some of our brands. So we've got Robinsons, Purdy's, Aqua Libra. We're the bottler for Pepsi, Tango, and I'm sure you'll have some in your cupboards at home. But I've been at the company 9 years, so quite a while, so I've seen a lot of change. But the reason that I'm so passionate about this is I have faced my own challenges when I was younger, and inclusion for me is super important. And I certainly think that inclusion and well-being go hand in hand. If you feel included in whatever environment you're in, that will affect your well-being and hopefully make that stronger.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm Scott. So we've introduced the important people. Now over to me, the panel host. I'm a passionate leader about inclusion. So currently, I have no fixed abode. So we were deciding, what do I put up there? Human, ally. Currently, I'm not working for an organisation, but I continue to drive change where I can. So passionate about this subject, and it's great to be a part of this. So you'll be aware there's been a lot about mental health. But 1 in 6 sicknesses is now related to mental health. So it's escalating. It's the #1 sickness that's now reported. And it's understandable why employees are now investing against this, because there is an ROI when they're really supporting their colleagues through this. So how do we produce a plan, a scheme, and engage our employees to improve their health and well-being and their mental health? And our esteemed leaders today are going to help us on that journey and share what they've been doing to really engage their colleagues in their organisations. So before we go into the detail, it'd be great to learn more about each of your passions in diversity. So broader than mental health, you've both already said that you're passionate about diversity. So let's hear a bit more about why that's important to you and what you've been doing personally in that crusade.
Absolutely. So I was quite open in a keynote that I did a couple of weeks ago, where I decided to bring a box with me. And in that box was who I am as a diverse person, and Layla's nodding because I've told all about this. So in that box, I pulled out a rainbow flag. I'm a LGBT community member. I have a wonderful wife called Fee, who I'll talk about in a little bit. I have 2 children who, if anyone's on LinkedIn, will know them quite well by now. I have a 7-year-old who repeats every word that I say to all of her friends at school. She knows what intersex is. She knows all about non-binary. She's absolutely switched on. And I have a 12-year-old who is neurodiverse. So for me, I think that diversity bit, not only have I got my rainbow flag, I've got my parent hat on that I have to have on, all the time. The phone's always on. We were talking about this over lunch. The phone's always going. Again, from a neurodiverse point of view as well, for having a 12-year-old boy who is neurodiverse and struggling with that can be quite hard on his mental well-being as well. But not only that, out of my box, I brought my bra out. I identify as a woman. Everyone in the room went, oh, she's got a bra, which went down really well. I do like to get a little bit, a couple of embarrassed faces on the go. But yeah, we're all diverse people. And again, we should be able to celebrate that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, working in Britvic and like the fantastic network groups that we have just makes me realise that it's just so, I just love the fact that I can work with so many different people, and the fact that you can be in a team, and if you have a diverse culture in that team, you get so many better ideas, and that is what I love about it. And I think that as a company, we do really, really well. I've got children, like Kat said, I've got two boys, 17 and 14, and they come home and they tell me things that I haven't got a clue about, but I try and get educated from them as well. And I think that is the biggest piece for me, is being educated in this space, and whether that's from my children or whether that's from the network groups in Britvic. I think that's super important, and that's definitely passion of mine to be involved in that as much as I possibly can.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Kat, for sharing. So now on to our first question. Sarah, this is for you. Mental health and well-being is clearly an important issue for you. Why is this?
Yes, it is very important to me and very close to my heart. So I mentioned earlier that I have faced some personal challenges in my past. I was bullied at school for being different to my peers, whether they thought I came from a different background to them, I looked different to them. And it was a really tricky time for me, and I lost so much confidence. You can hear it in my voice now when I talked about it. Lost loads of confidence. It really affected my mental health. And from that, I had really low self-esteem. I was, very body conscious. And sometimes I really hated myself. And it's not a very nice place to be. And I just wanted to change myself. I wanted to fit in, and I wanted it all to stop, really. And so, yeah, it was a really tough time. And as a result of that, I suffered with bulimia, which was a tricky time for me. But I then met my husband, who's an amazing man, who I love dearly, and he made me see my true worth, who I was, brought me back to life, gave me the confidence to be Sarah, and made me realise that, making a few small changes in my life to stop that destructive cycle that I was in can make such a difference. So now in my life, I make sure that I am physically active. I walk the dog, I go to the gym regularly. Healthy eating is a real top priority for me. But also having time out for myself, letting my body rest, which is not easy with two teenagers in the house, I must admit. But having that time and, to reset is super important. And it just makes me realise how important it is to look after yourself. And especially in the workplace, we all face challenges like this in our life. And, we do ultimately bring it to work with us. And, that can affect productivity, engagement, how we're feeling. And that's why at Britvic, we really have a responsibility to look after our employees and make sure that they are supported. Because ultimately, healthy, happy employees is not only beneficial to us as a business or to the employees, but also for society overall.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for sharing your story. And how does that impact how you lead in the workplace?
I think because I've got that personal experience and I know how that feels to be excluded and to feel that, that loss of confidence, that I'm the type of person now that I'm kind. I make sure that everyone feels like they have got someone to talk to, that nothing is ever that bad. Someone is there for you. And I hope that comes across in all that I do and all that we're doing as an organisation.
Thank you. Kat, anything to add on that?
I think everyone at some point in their life struggles with mental health. maybe not even if it's your own, maybe if you're at home with someone else who is struggling, you're then bringing that into work with you. You're thinking about that person at home that, is not right. And that again, that can affect, exactly as Sarah said, your productivity. You're going to appear distracted. The last thing you want is someone on your back saying, come on, like, why have you not sent that email? I've asked you about this. You need that bit of empathy. And I think that's what everyone needs to do. And I think that's a massive change that I've seen, especially in ISS, is that people have that empathy. And they're not jumping on each other for these deadlines. They're actually taking someone to one side and saying, like, is everything all right? But they're asking it twice because it's so easy. Someone goes, how are you today? And I am the first one that goes, great, no worries, perfect. Actually, if you ask me a second, I'll be like, do you know what? You're going to get all of it. So yeah, I think that's definitely really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's something that through COVID became more regular, asking how people were. So I remember going through COVID, you would ask colleagues because you knew they were on their own, because they were isolated from family, friends, and weren't in the workplace. I think it became something that was easier to do, in fact. And I think that's a good trait that's come out of post-COVID, where asking colleagues how they are, but trying to observe how they are as well, became something quite important to understand mental health. So thanks, Kat. Second question for you, Kat. How has your organisation helped colleagues manage their mental health and well-being in the last 12 months?
So 12 months is actually quite a good time frame because it's the end of that sort of, I'll say end of the sort of the COVID part. People were starting to come back into the offices again. But we had a really big initiative over that period, and actually it did start before COVID, of having a platform of mental health first aiders. And that's not just from people in the offices, that's from every part of the business, from senior leaders all the way through to security, staff, catering, these people, so that everyone had access to someone that they could speak to. So as part of that network, there's like a monthly meeting, they all catch up, they share, again, what they've been talking about, what those sort of key themes that we need to tap into. But they very much have a remit, it's triage. We're not training counsellors, they all have day jobs. So it's be able to understand, what that person's struggling with, and then be able to take that on board and then be able to signpost, but check in again. We don't want to then just go, thanks for sharing. Please leave the business to, find an external provider, and then we'll, get back to us. Hopefully you'll be fine. So again, it's that check-in points. But it's also about upskilling as well, and that's something that I'm quite passionate about as well. So I had the chance to go and speak to the Mental Health First Aider Network about the menopause, which is something that I knew nothing about 18 months ago. Not a clue. I'm going to go through it at some point. All I knew was it was something to do with old women, because I'd seen my mum go through it, hot flushes, and she just had mood swings every 5 minutes. So that's as much as I knew, completely uneducated, and there'll probably be other people that are in a similar situation. But for me, the reason I brought it into the workplace is because I mentioned Fee, my wife, earlier. So we've been together for 8 years, married for 4. Over that last sort of 4 years, her mental health had absolutely tanked. And that was before COVID. I'd get to the end of the day and I'd be like, had a great day, I did this, I did this, I did this, really annoying. I'd say, how's your day been, my lovely? How's your day been? And she'd be like, didn't do that, that was rubbish, I've not tried hard enough. She's such a perfectionist, and I am really not a perfectionist, so I don't know really why we're married at all. But we're the perfect combination, yin and yang. So this sort of was the conversation that was happening every night when I was coming home from work. But not only that, she wasn't sleeping. So I'm in a bed next to someone who's sweating, she's awake, she's got a book out, the light's on, she's gone to the toilet again. So I'm taking this into work thinking, blimey, I've not slept. God, do I need a wee? I need a wee as well, I'm gonna have to get up for a wee too. So that was affecting my sort of work life, even though she was the one that was clearly suffering. So for me, it looked like someone had turned the colour down. She sort of just wasn't herself anymore. So we started to look into this. She was starting to get a bit of counselling. Then there was issues with the digestive system. There was a list of things, and I'm going, right, she's got bowel cancer. She's got bowel cancer. We're going to have to get her tested. So I literally marched her. She had to get biopsies and all sorts. It wasn't bowel cancer. She was getting these weird kaleidoscope migraines. She's got a brain tumour. Right, we need to go in. And I'm not a hypochondriac at all. I never go to the GP for anything. But I was convinced that she was going to die from something. When we actually looked into it, it turned out it was the menopause. So I'm at home, Googling everything. I'm that person that sits in front of the TV like that. What's this? So I'd educated myself within about the space of 3 weeks. I knew everything about menopause. So I'm living with this woman at home thinking, I'm going into work and I'm sat next to people that are reacting quite similarly to what I'm experiencing at home. So I like to have a really uncomfortable conversation. I'm one of those people as well. So I marched into an SLT meeting, all men on this occasion. And they said, is there anything anyone would like to raise as any other business? So I was like, yes, Kat, what's she going to say? I'd like to talk about the menopause, please. And all of these guys went, oh God, the menopause. So after I sort of spoke for a couple of minutes, they decided that actually I should probably have my own section for about half an hour. I could talk to them separately about this topic. I think really, so because they all went, oh God, we need to just get ourselves together. So I came back at another occasion a couple of weeks later, and I did a massive thing about everything I'd learned about the menopause. And as part of our business of 35,000 people, 57% of our workforce are women. So at some point, all of those people are going to go through that. But not only that, it was affecting me as a partner. And it's going to affect those people as a line manager as well. So this scope was getting wider and wider about who was going to be affected by this and what these symptoms are they're bringing into work. Not only from, let's say, men, women, partners, line managers, transgender, non-binary, the list goes on and on and on and on. So because it was affecting her mental health so much, I decided to speak to the mental health first aiders, because the last thing I wanted was for someone to come up to a mental health first aider and say, I'm tired, I'm not sleeping, I'm anxious, I'm depressed. And then the mental health coach says, great, mind, Samaritans, off you go. Whereas actually what they need is to go and see their GP and look at some sort of hormone replacement therapy, because it's not going to get better without it. So for me, it was making sure that we were directing people in the right area and that we could all say the word menopause without everyone going. And now, as a business, we're now 12 months on, which is really nice, and there's more and more that we're doing at the minute. I can walk into our restaurant at work and hear two guys chatting about their wives' menopausal symptoms. And then I get called over to also discuss their wife's menopausal symptoms, which is lovely. So for us, that taboo is absolutely no more. So now that's been felt from top level of the business all the way across to our placemakers on site. So now, again, for us, it's what do we tackle next? What are those key topics, those taboos that people don't like talking about? And as part of our employee networks, obviously the talk earlier was things like male suicide, prostate cancer. It goes on and on and on. So now that's my mission for the next 12 months, is to have all of these topics talked about so that people feel safe to be who they need to be in work. So,
thank you, Kat. Sarah, anything to add?
Well, the last 12 months, we've done a lot in the last 12 months. Our main focus in the last 12 months was on our supply chain. Because I think we, especially through COVID actually, because everything was done on Teams, and so you connect with the people that are in the head office because they're at their laptops every day, and you can join those Teams calls, and they can get all the information and attend the events, etc. But for me, I felt that the supply chain guys who are in our factories, on the lines, they can't just shut down a line to join one of our calls. They don't have their laptop on and they can't see what we're putting on the internet and the emails that are being sent out all the time. So it was a real focus to make sure that they are included in everything that we're doing, and it's not that them and us feel, which I did sense that we were heading that way. So we started by going out to our supply chain, actually going out to the sites and seeing them, which is absolutely lovely. I mean, I've always worked in corporate, but to actually go out and meet these people from different diverse backgrounds, and it was lovely, really nice. And they were so appreciative for, you're from head office, you're coming to see us, you come into our sites, and it's just so important that we have that face-to-face contact. So we did briefings, we went all to their team meetings, made sure they knew about all the support and the resources that we had available, like we've got like the LifeWorks digital app and the EAP service, all the network groups that if they wanted to join, they could. So we did all that team briefing, which went down an absolute storm. And then from that, as things do, they spiral, don't they? Because you then come up with another idea. So the next idea was, let's do roadshows and let's actually take the people from these network groups to the site. So it's not just myself and my colleague Claire going out. It's actually the people that are driving the agenda in their space. They're the ones that are going to come to the site and they're going to speak to you. Which is what we've done. So Wellbeing has actually gone on tour for the first time this week. So the bus started in Beckton site this week. We're off to Leeds tomorrow. And we literally got the guys off the line. We got the lines shut down for an hour and a half. They could come along to the event and they could go round the room and speak to everyone at those stands. So we had external partners, like we partnered with Andy's Man Club, which is a male suicide charity, because our factory workers are predominantly male. So they were there. We had our AXA Healthcare, all our network groups, our wellbeing warriors, our mental health first aiders, and the buzz and the energy in the room was absolutely electric. And these people were just so grateful to see us. They were grateful to the fact that we made the effort to see them face to face, because a lot of them said, we sometimes see the emails and sometimes we delete, you know, we don't always read everything. And so to have you here and be able to talk to you about the support that we need made such a difference. So that is sort of the journey that we're on. And it's probably going to get a bit bigger, because you know what it's like, these things create more ideas. But for us, I think that in the last 12 months, that has been a really big win for us. And I think we're getting to crack the nut of supply chain and get them on the same fun bus as we're all on.
Thank you, Sarah. So that concludes our panel. So a massive round of applause for Kat and Sarah. I think, as the title says, mental health and wellbeing can't be ignored. It's not just individuals that are affected, and as both Sarah and Kat have shared, the story is a ripple effect. Yeah, it's whether it's menopause, I'm happy to say that.
Well done.
Whether it's suicide or mental well-being, it's not just the individual that is impacted. It's colleagues, it's friends, it's family, it's partners. So that awareness in the workplace is key. Observing people, being more understanding, having empathy will make a real difference. So thank you for listening.